Welcome back to Sacred Journey Mapping. Again, I want to congratulate you for sticking this out and being here. This is going to be a really important section of the course. In this part of the course, you are going to figure out what makes you you. And that's a really exciting endeavor and discernment process. So I'm going to share my screen again with you now. And we're back in the workbook, and we're on page 13. And just page 13 gives you a quick overview of the value of understanding values and the importance of and the significance of core values in your everyday thinking and helping you make your decisions. So I encourage you to read that on your own. We are going to actually get right into the exercise itself. Remember the principle 1 from the earlier part of our session, part 1 of our session today. The principle, spiritual principle, is I choose the direction of my life by the beliefs I allow to define me. So again, I choose the direction of my life by the beliefs I allow to define me. So we are going to pray our very first prayer together and to invite the creator of the universe to our strategy table for insight into core values. So let's center ourselves, relax, and I'm going to pray. Divine creator of the universe, thank you for mating us here, right where we are at this moment. Take our hands and walk us inward to the center of our beings, to search for knowledge of who we are when we're at our best. Believing that we can encounter the divine at any time, in any place, or in any circumstance, we trust that you are here with us now, ready to transform this moment into a moment of spiritual awakening. We welcome your divine presence and hold each other in the light as you open our hearts and minds to your truths. Along the way, help us see ourselves as you do. Show us which ideals are most essential to the person you created us to be. Help us see which ones nurture our growth and make us feel healthy and whole. Reveal to us which ones are so central that without them, we would not be the unique people we are or want to be. Show us clearly the very few ideals you planned for us to place before all others. Help us know that we choose the direction of our lives by the beliefs we allow to define us. Assure us that all is well. As we work on our own and together in this sacred circle, allow your divine spirit to inspire all of us to reflect your special love for each of us. Amen. So, one of the benefits of having a dedicated prayer to a particular practice, principle and practice in sacred journey mapping is to reflect on words that jumped out at you, words or phrases that jumped out at you in the prayer. So think now, if you have the workbook in front of you, that's great. If not, maybe you can recall and write down in your journal or in your notes a word or a phrase that particularly spoke to you. You know, something that awakened something in you. You know, when I've done this with other sacred circles, one of the phrases that jumps out at people is help us see which values, which ones nurture our growth and make us feel healthy and whole. You know, that's something that you may have heard, may have spoken to you. Other times people have pointed out, show us the ideals that are most essential to the person you created us to be. So the journey, the sacred journey mapping is in fact a sacred journey. And this is one of the places that we declare and claim holy ground, is in these prayers. So I encourage you to just think a moment, jot a note, circle a phrase in your workbook, just something that popped out at you and that might make a difference to you as you go through the exercise. So I'll give you a quick minute to do that. Okay, so the practice itself is the practice of discovering your core values. So your core values answer the question, who am I? They're a compatible set of guiding principles that basically create how you behave. A person in alignment or who lives in integrity is a person whose beliefs and deeds match. That you behave in ways that witness to or attest to what you say you stand for. It's really important to figure out what those things are that you say you stand for. So it's important. So let's take a look at this little micro lesson on core values, because it's easy to get off track when you're doing work in core values. So here are some really important elements that I want you to keep in mind when you get to the exercise itself. So core values resonate deeply in you. I mean, they're really something that they're not surface. They are deeply embedded in your spirit. They are something that, they are ideals that you would, you know, when you see the word or when you see the ideal, that's okay, that sounds like me. That's something that I really value deeply. These will be the few ideals that you espouse without which you would not be you. So one of the ways to test, is this really essentially a core value or just a value that's in my constellation of values, is to ask yourself, okay, would I be me without this value? That's a differentiating question. Values lead to mission, but don't replace mission. So first you have to identify who you are as defined by what you care about most, and then your purpose follows, and they are connected. Remember the schematic or the visual graphic on an earlier page. It showed them in the same circle. They are part of your core identity. Together, they form your core identity. So there may be 10 or 20 values. Somebody could legitimately say, well, I care about 10 or 20 ideals. Those are all important to me. But when you really think about it and reflect on it more deeply, you're probably making your decisions based on 3 to 5 of these values. That isn't to say that you don't care about these other ideals or that they're not important to you. But when you make a hard decision, you're making them typically on the basis of 3 to 5. And in fact, if you're making them on the basis, if you're making your really hard decisions on the basis of more than 3 to 5, you're probably creating conflict in yourself. That conflict, you introduce the opportunity for conflict by saying or believing that you care more about, that you care deeply about more ideals than you really do care deeply about. So my advice is to limit those core ideals or those core values, those core things to which you ascribe worth above and beyond all other things, to no more than 5. It's a manageable, and it doesn't have to be 5, it can be less than 5, but it should not be more than 5. And values don't need to be defended by anyone. You don't have to defend your values to anyone. They are what is true for you. They make you you, and they don't need require a defense. One of the benefits of this work and doing in discernment of core values is that you get a chance, once you know what they are, you get a chance to look at decisions that you'll be making after you do this work that are out of alignment, and say, oh man, you know, this isn't aligned with my core values. I need to make this decision because this is what I care more deeply about than this. So if you care more deeply about X than Y, but you're making the decision on the basis of Y, there's a point of clarification and a point that you want to make a change, a way to change behaviors and get into closer alignment, get your beliefs and deeds into closer alignment, which is what's going to give you that sense of well-being, that overall sense of health and being in and being congruent. So the exercise itself is on page 16. So those are some like facts, some mini snippets about core values that I'd like you to keep in mind as you go through the discernment process and this exercise in core values. So the first step in the exercise in core values is to think about the most important ideals that shape who you are and how you live your life. And these ideals drive all your decisions, and they are what you stand for above and beyond everything else. The bulleted sample listings in the table under point 2 offer a range of possibilities of ideals that are in fact values. They are in no order in particular, and they are not exhaustive. So there may be values, there may be ideals that you care deeply about that aren't on this list, and that's fine. That you have every opportunity to write those in. But this, I hope, will give you kind of a launch pad for your thinking. And so these are respect, for example, is something that people can clearly identify as a core value. Resilience can be another core value. These would be things, ideals to which you aspire. Hope is another potential core value. So as you think about the values that are important to you, go ahead and circle any that are in this chart that are important. And if you come up with one that isn't in this chart, write it in to the blank space. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. So take a minute and look these over and say, and these should be honestly top of mind. These should be what comes to mind, what resonates with you. It's like almost like a reflex reaction. What really speaks to your heart and soul when you look at this list, and then anything that's not there. I'm going to give you a second to do that. Now, if you circled more than 5, and if between any you added on your own and those that you circled are more than 5, go back and take another look and ask yourself, you get that list down to 5. Ask yourself, okay, would I be me without this? Do I make my decisions on the basis of this? Can people expect this from me? Is this something to which I aspire? and place high worth. So go ahead and reduce that list to no more than 5. And just keep in mind, because this is a recording, you can, if I'm going too fast for you and you need more time, you can always pause and take the time you need before we move on, before you move on. So I'm going to move to what I'd like you to do with those 5 to the next page. We're going to come back to this page in a minute, but right now I'd like you to put the 5 that you boiled your list down to in the center circle of the worksheet, the core values worksheet, worksheet 1 on page 17. So put the up to 5. You don't have to have 5, but if you have 5, that's the limit. Write those in the center. And you'll notice this is kind of looking like a constellation, kind of rough idea of a constellation. The idea here is that your core values are not unlike the sun, not unlike the center of your universe. Those which give you light and life. And that isn't to say that you don't value other things. And those would be the ideals that were outside of the 5. If you had 7, or if you had 10, or if you had 20, those would be the others, not the central core values. So you have your 5, put those in the center. They're your sun. They give you light and life. And now take those others and put them in the orbit of the sun, so that you have your constellation of values. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Okay, so now that you've filled in all of or any of the applicable circles, and you don't have to have a secondary value that fills every circle. You may only have 2 or 3, and that's absolutely fine. You may have 2 or 3 core values versus 5, and that's absolutely fine as well. Remember, this is what makes you you. So what my values are won't be the same as what your values are. So there's, again, no judgment, no need to defend. It is what is. When you're thinking of values, think about things that have intrinsic worth, not the result that you get from that value, but what motivates that. What is the motivation behind anything you do? Those will be your values, what motivates you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to page 16, and we're going to look at item 4 under the exercise activities. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to rate how well you're performing, you as an individual performing on each of these core values. So if you say you stand for peace, or you say you stand for hope, or you say you stand for integrity, to what extent are you living that value? On a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 being, not so well. I know I stand for this, but I don't make a lot of decisions on the basis of this. To 5, meaning I'm really delivering, I'm really in integrity on this. I can trace nearly all my decisions, majority of my decisions really line up with this particular value. Take a minute and rate, and remember, this is blameless autopsy. This is this is how you grow. To know where something that you deeply care about is underperforming in your life is a growth point. So it's important to know where you're out of sync, and where that harmony, where you can improve your harmony, your congruency, your integrity, and therefore your overall health and well-being. So take a moment now and look at each of those values that you have filled in to your core value, either core value central circle or the orbiting circles, and just give it a quick rating on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, not so much. 5, I'm doing really well at this. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, you want to keep this. You definitely want to keep this because it will help you see where your potential growth opportunities are to bring your actions and deeds into closer alignment. Now, if you look at the bottom of page 5, you'll notice that this is the point that you're going to start to build your plan. You're going to add your defining core values, the ones that you have placed in the center circle of this worksheet, so the values that are here, you're going to add to your chapter 8. It'll be the very first thing you put in your sacred journey map. And so here you go. You have right in here on page 65, you are going to write your core values. Here they go. They go right in here. So you have put in the first building block to your sacred journey map. Congratulations. This is very exciting. I'm hoping that you are excited about the process. I am encouraging you to go to the follow-on activities, which you'll see on page, let's see, I think it's page 18. Let's take a quick look, what the follow-on activities. Yeah, page 18, you'll see there's a mini meditation with some quotes that you can think about. There's a positive affirmation you could choose to adopt. There's a rule of life habit that you could choose to integrate into your way of thinking. And there is there's a level up activity, which all the level up activities are followed by sacred journal entry possibilities. And then there on page 19, there's a hands-on experience describing how you can create a core values rock garden. I love this one. This one is super simple to do, and it's lots of fun. And it's something you can do between this webinar and the next webinar, so that you actually have something in addition to your sacred journey map to show as a result of your work. And it's very, very simple. You take some river rocks, or any kind of rock. The river rocks are nice because they're smooth. And write your core values. Choose one. Write each of your core values on each of your river rocks, and create a core values rock garden. I have done this, and it's super helpful. I make a note in the book here of my own personal turn it over rock that I have used for many, many years. I keep one on my nightstand, and I actually have another one that I keep on my desk. Same thing, turn it over is written on both sides. It reminds me always how important peace is to my heart and soul, and that I can surrender my concerns and my worries and my fears to the divine every single time I turn that rock over. And it has been incredibly helpful for me over the years. So I give you this opportunity and encourage you to go ahead and make a rock garden, a core values rock garden. Have fun with it. They can be as beautiful or as complicated as you choose. At some point, I would love to see what you come up with. So what we've done today is we've just quick summary. We have oriented ourselves to the book. You know how the book is laid out. You know the model that we're using. You know that we have 7 principles and 7 practices and the value of each of them and contributing to the Sacred Journey Map. You've been invited to find some dedicated sacred ground, holy ground for yourself, and a way to actually, a place that you can keep track of your thoughts and your progress in a journal. And you've actually completed at least your first draft of your core values exercise and added to that first cell in your Sacred Journey Map. Between now and when you take the next webinar, I encourage you to review the core values that you've identified and see if they're the ones that you really want to include in your Sacred Journey Map, and make adjustments. This is the time to make the changes that you think that are appropriate. I know we did spend a little thinking time, but you may, upon reflection, want to change those, and that's absolutely allowable. So I encourage you to take time, go to your holy ground, make any adjustments you need to make, and we'll see you back next time. We will be doing the work in mission, answering the question, why do I exist? Lots of fun. What am I doing here on earth? So I look forward to that. Be well, stay safe. We'll see you next time. Bye.